Welcome to today's brand new episode of Discovered with Steph. Today I am here with Marliii, who released her debut EP, Awaken Eye, on April 9th. So I want to start off by welcoming you to the show. I'm so excited
Hey,
to finally chat with you.
thanks. Happy
So,
to be here.
so take me through everything that led up to you becoming the musician you are today.
Oh my gosh, everything. It's going to take 24 years because I just turned 24. So it's going to take a minute at least. I'll try to stuff it into that much time. But I began playing guitar first. That was my first instrument. And I started that in the third grade in elementary school. My dad played guitar for and who knows how long. And so I started with that, and I always loved writing, like poetry, and just my thoughts and my emotions. And so that easily just combined and congregated into being a singer songwriter, even like in the fifth grade kind of thing. Like really early on, I was able to play and sing at the same time, but I never really knew what I wanted to do with that exactly in the way that I was writing stuff. But being in that age, like going into middle school, and there were just like a lot of vibes where I was like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this kind of thing. There was also some vibes where I was like, oh, I could do this, some sort of. But I think there was just, I think it's part of life. Depending on where you grow up, you always feel a certain way, and that was just where I'm from. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to go beyond, like, pass through my anxieties and my mental health and find who I am. So with that, I make it important in my music to go into a introspective space and mystical space of questioning yourself and society and who you are to become your best self and reach your nirvana. And with that, I find it important to discuss mental health and discuss who you are, because I needed to do that starting within to be able to get to where I am now and to keep on growing. It's being a comforting, helping hand to yourself and society. And so I that message, and then also just like realizing, okay, this is me, so I'm not going to hide away from it. I'm going to share and love and support, and that's how I ended up here.
I love that. I think that's such a great journey. You definitely had a lot of self-discovery and like you grew up basically like, wanting to do this and then you just conquered through it and found yourself.
Yeah, it's like even when that voice in your head's just like, oh, you can't do it, you can't do it. You gotta fight through, and eventually you're gonna manifest and you're gonna see magic happen. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm about.
So take me through the creative process for your EP. It's a big deal having your debut EP. So take me through how you created it.
Yeah, so this EP took years. I'm not joking. I went to college. I went to Hofstra in New York. And so I kind of took a detour from music for that self-discovery. It took high school and then into college, but I did major in music industry because I knew, I was like, I love music. Maybe I'm supposed to be in the background. I don't know if I'm like making quality. And I think it's also partially because I like make YouTube videos, and the first couple were pretty good. Like they got in the tens of thousands of views and like no advertising whatsoever. This was in middle school, and like, I guess it was before YouTube was totally saturated. And then I started to release videos, and they'd get less and less and less as YouTube became more of a social media platform where people can kind of, invest or like be the best at it or something. And I was like, I guess I'm not. So I'm just going to see like how people do that. Or I was just like, yeah, let's discover and let's roll with it. And from there, I ended up becoming the director of music for a radio station called WRHU. So that's 88.7 FM. And that was really cool because I was like in this paid position while I was in college. And my job was to listen to music all day and interview artists and go to concerts for free, festivals for free. I had such amazing experiences with that. And I was also delegating responsibilities among the DJs in the radio station. And so I was doing that. And I was also teaching music. So I was teaching guitar and piano to kids who were like in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And that was through School of Rock. So I had two jobs. I was in college, and these were really special experiences. I'm actually wearing a shirt from a festival that I went to called Great South Bay Music Festival. And I was interviewing the lineup there, and it was just on the water. It was so wonderful. So like coincidentally, but yeah, coincidentally, because I should, you said to like dress casual. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wear this. But yeah, going back to the story. So I was doing these really cool things within the industry, and it was really cool, but something felt kind of missing. I was like, I could keep doing this, but at the same time, it got to the point where it's like the teaching, I still do the teaching, but I had started it in my freshman year of college. And because I needed to afford to commute to school, I was driving and I needed my food, just simple needs. And so I was working, and then the radio station was really cool adding that. But I think the combination was like, I'm sharing music, I'm listening and learning new music, and I'm interviewing and uplifting other artists, and I'm uplifting my students and like everyone around me, but am I remembering about myself? And so that's where Spill the Tea came in through. So I talked about how like I kind of felt like, I sang about, and I still sing about when I sing it live, like there's kind of this raveling of emotions that come in from following the motions and following the leader and doing your routine, and how sometimes you got to break from that to become your best self, and you have to take chances and go through obstacles. And I always had been afraid of going into becoming my own artist and creator and releasing music, because I was like, oh, it's so expensive when you first start. Like no one's going to listen to you unless you drop 10 20K, because you're competing with the majors who are putting in hundreds of thousands and millions. And I definitely put in a bit, but I had to save up. So I was working all these jobs while in school and learning so I could do it myself. But like it just had to, that click of confidence had to come in after. And it was at that point where I had the radio station job too, because I was just interviewing artists all the time in bands and hosting performances and going to shows. And I was like, this is what I want. And it just took having a blessing of a job to think, okay, now I want to do that. But then there was the time situation, right? Like if you're in school and you have two jobs, and I was in a sorority too. And so I was just like, I was just doing everything, and I was driving 40 minutes to school and then back to my parents' house to save on rent for a bit. I was living on like around campus for a bit. But yeah, it's just like it felt like a mess, but it felt like things were like coming together. And then eventually what did happen was, I know I'm telling this really long story. You're like, wait,
No, it's
when is the
perfect.
climax of it? When
Keep
is the apex?
going.
Okay, I'll tell you when the apex happens now. So I'm in my PR class, and I'm just kind of like, when you're in class and you're kind of like on your phone a little bit, but you're like, oh, no one's gonna know.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna know. And so I'm scrolling and I see this ad, and it's like, do you want to play a show in Portugal? That's literally what the ad says. And I'm like, wait, what? And then so I click on it, and they're like, oh, the band Portugal the Man is picking 5 artists to perform a festival in Portugal. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a little busy with the radio station and the job, like all this stuff, but the radio station gig was a 1-year thing because that's just how the contracts worked. So I was like, oh, my contract's going to end in December. So it's not like this would be for the next summer. So this is for summer 2019. So I was like, okay, this could be cool. But the deadline was in like 5 days. And I was like, oh, could I come up with it was a cover of Live in the Moment as the song from Portugal the Man. So I was thinking, can I come up with that in 5 days? Hmm, I was like, let me phone my boyfriend because he knows a lot too, and he is an amazing mix and mastering engineer. And so when we work together, more magic happens. And I think that's like one of the best things in a relationship you can have. It's just someone who's passionate about the same things as you, and you're in tune together, so you can do more than just like I guess you just won't ever get bored with them. So that's how we've been together for 5 years. But I know it's like half a decade. It's kind of crazy. But this is like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we worked on this song together. And at this time, we were long distance because he had just finished school the year before me. So he was saving money with his parents in Massachusetts. So this was a good way for us to connect from afar because I was still in New York. He was in Massachusetts at that time. And we were like, okay, in 5 days, we got this. We're going to Portugal. We had never been to Europe. We really manifested that because a month later, we get an email from Nas Alive, Lisbon. Congratulations, Portugal the Man picked you. You're going to Portugal this summer. And they flew us out. They paid for our plane, our hotel. It was a really nice hotel too, and they had a chauffeur for us, like someone to like pick us up and drive us around, and they got us interviews, and it was so cool. And
That's insane.
yeah, and I was like, wait, I didn't even have my EP out yet. Like, this is too early. And so it kind of was like funky. It was like a flipped order. And that's when I realized I was like, maybe I am meant to do this. So the timing's just so off. When something like you keep running away from something and then the weirdest coincidences keep happening and you're like, maybe I should be doing that because like why would all these things be happening? Like maybe I was meant to have this earlier, but the fact that I didn't believe in myself and I didn't choose to start earlier, it's like I kind of slept on it. But now, like it kind of felt like something I missed something in my path, and so but that part was still there, and so I was like, maybe I should just do it, and like because I've been saying I would forever, and then but it is expensive, and I grew up not really having the funds to do it myself or knowing someone. It's always like, oh, you got to know the right people or be really wealthy, and so I had to work many jobs, and I still got blessed with that. But that was kind of where I was like, okay, the second that I do graduate, which was the next semester, I'm just gonna go for it. And that's when I started releasing singles like Spill the Tea and Will Shine and Clearly. And I did have a quarantine too because I was like, this all happened at a great time, right? As soon as I go to Portugal and then I graduate, and then 2 months later, the pandemic happens. So I'm like, oh, so yeah, but I'm very hopeful. I did hear that New York's opening in July, like fully.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
but yeah, so with that story, a lot of things have happened in the past 2 years, and one of them being this show. I worked at this radio station that kind of just had me like kind of teasing at like, oh, like this looks so cool, and I'm kind of like, I'm around it all the time, but I want to be in it like in a deeper level with my creativity. And so then that show happened, but I also was writing and feeling so inspired building up with that. And then eventually I graduated and I was like, now I have time to actually record and make a marketing strategy. And the pandemic happened and I was like, oh, now I don't have a job. And then I was still writing and I was still releasing without any ads and stuff. And it wasn't going very well. But then I got my software job. I was like, apparently I was good at that. I was like, that was the one class I was like, kind of got an A in. I actually did get an A in computer science. And I don't know why. I was a PR major. I did get A's in a couple of PR classes too, but yeah, I was like maybe I'll just try it. And I do like it, and I get PTO, so I was like,
Yeah, that's not bad.
I'm gonna use that for my tour. So
Uh-huh.
that's the plan. So until I can like just do music, but don't tell them. I have like it's funny. I'm like Hannah Montana there. I go to work and I'm like, yeah, I love software. I love that, and I'm just doing that. And then I'm also, since it's work from home, I'm like doing music stuff on the side. Yeah, I think I told you how chill it was like that. But yeah, but now I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm very curious about it myself, and I appreciate you listening to my story. And
Yeah, of course. That's such a great story. And like you had that like big twist where like you were just sitting there one day and you're like, I'll try this out, see if it goes anywhere. And then you ended up in Portugal. And
yeah, yeah, it was kind of like a reality check of like, and but at the same time, it felt like a dream. It was very surreal. It was like a reality check, like, oh, Portugal, the man believes in me, and so it's this
yeah.
whole festival and like this whole thing, because they heard the demo that I made with my boyfriend, and it was just they vibed with it. They brought him too. We both went, and so it was really cool. But then at the same time, I'm like, this can't be real. Like we would reality check each other, me and Brady, and be like, is this a dream? Like this ain't real, right? Like, no, I think we're in a simulation. Like it was just really funny. But then I was like, I can't give up now.
Yeah, definitely not after that.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And yeah, I'm really excited for the world to open up again. It seems like I have a show in Denver in October, and I
Ooh.
got some stuff like in the tri-state area. I'm trying to fill out that gap between like the northeast to Denver though. So if you know anyone in other cities, definitely hit a homie up. I'm down to play some shows and some, even if it's like little cafes or bars. Like I'm just ready to rage, since, I haven't really played a show in a while.
Yeah, definitely. So back to your EP. What's your favorite track on the EP?
So right now, it's depending on the day. It's like, it's kind of a mood board or mood ring thing, where some days you want to hear that like really happy, good vibe song, and that would be Immortality. It's like that concept for me is like, oh, what makes you feel immortal? What makes you feel awesome? So I started it with the EP with that, because I know that a lot of people want to feel hype and feel good. So I gave that like dream trap beat to it. So it's like dream synths for like dream pop, but then also a trap beat. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. We can vibe with this. And then so sometimes I'm like, I want to be feeling real good. So that's that song. But sometimes I want to feel a little more mystical and mysterious. And that's where Will Shine comes in. That one, we do like this bass heavy, like reverbed chorus, and it's just a twist because the verses are funky, like real instruments, soft rock funk chill, and then it goes into that breakdown of the chorus, and it's like R&B bass. And so that's like more of a mysterious thing because of those sudden changes, but I feel like that's just the magic of it. And I think with my music, I want to give that safe space to be free and be who you are, and to make risky and like weird decisions and like lifestyle choices. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want. So that's what I did with that song. I was like, oh, let's just do like these weird things that maybe a signed artist can't do, because YOLO, because like they're not allowed, because the label chooses for them. Like I can do like whatever I want, so I'm just doing it. And so that's like when I want to feel like a badass, like a bad bitch, I'll listen to that. And then with Spill the Tea, that's more like introspective, but like also growth. And like if I'm in a really chill vibe, and same with Clearly, those are both very chill. Like I can meditate to it. I could wake up like early morning, like sprouting growth kind of songs. Not as much hype, but I mean, it could be hype for some people. I think the magic of an EP, an album, is like there's concepts and it's so open to interpretation.
Yeah, that's probably like the best part. And I love how you're not afraid to like push the boundaries. Like what you said really stood out where you were like, oh yeah, like I can do something, but maybe a sign artist can't because, they don't have the same freedom that you do. So I think that's really great that you just explore those boundaries.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's the fact that I'm not, it's like, I can do what I want. I'm going to be so free spirited. I'm not going to stress about comparing myself to these signed artists. I'm just going to be myself and see what happens from there. And that doesn't mean I'll never sign with a label ever. I actually did sign one single with the label, and that's the one single that's not on my EP because it can't be. So I learned from that one single, and I was like blessed that I didn't pursue a whole album with them and like had to like not have those choices. We just did a test run and it was chill. Like I don't have any hard feelings with this label or anything, but I just was like, yeah, I could focus on myself, the and then who knows, like I could always collaborate on another song with another label. It's not off the table, but I just have my own standards and my own life, and I'm just gonna flow with what's right and a good vibe.
Yeah, definitely. That's so great. So, take me through kind of the writing process and what sort of went through your mind when creating the album, well, the EP, and just like the flow of it. And I know you talked about how like you can creatively like set an EP differently than like a single. So, take me through like all that.
So I would say the first thing about like an EP or an album versus a single, and I maybe can't even fully vouch for the full album yet since I'm not there yet, but hopefully I'll be there soon, maybe in the next year or so. We'll see how much time it takes. But with the EP compared to single, like a single, you can definitely assess your creative flow a little more easily because it's a quicker process. It's just like one song, and even that could take a while. And having like the release plan with it, like if you go all, some people go as out all out with it as they would with the whole EP, just for like the advertising and getting your following up, and that is expensive for sure. With me, I didn't really do advertising at first. I was just like getting music out there to like have it out there and like feel that in my heart, like, oh, I did that. And the results weren't quite what I wanted at first, and it's just kind of like, oh, like I just barely reached 1,000 streams for the first one, but each song, each time it gets better and better. And for the EP, I was like, okay, well, now it's multiple songs and now it's like serious because this is like a cluster of and time capsule of my life, the past 3 or 4 years, and just saving that, like songs that I've written that have developed first into fruition on the production aspects, because when you write a song on paper, turns out it could be very, very different on the DAW, on a digital sense, right? And so I learned how that worked. And the flow of it is just a roller coaster of emotions because all these songs have different meanings and just vibes and all these things. At least for me, I know like if you are a signed artist and you've released 10 albums, it's probably just piece of cake for each one. And like you delegate responsibilities to your producers and like your like creative teams all doing stuff for you. It's just a whole system and machine. But for me, it's definitely a lot more underground and DIY. I was producing a fair amount. I actually produced in every single song in the EP. So not only did I write all the songs, I was the one that recorded the demos, all the instruments there, and really like made it as much as I could until I was like, I am going loca, I'm going crazy because I just listened to these songs like 10,000 times and probably spent that many hours on it, at least 1,000 hours, if not 10.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time like when you add up all those songs together and then like kind of going crazy. I'm like, oh, I can't, like, I don't know if that sounds good, like questioning oneself and stuff. And just, yeah, like kind of just getting loony from it because it's just the repetition of it and just adding and trying to figure out and learn my style. Like, oh, who am I in this sense? And so that was me in quarantine when I was like, oh, I have this extra time. Let's just really like dig in and learn how to produce. And so eventually I was like, Brady, my boyfriend, I was like, can you help mix and master this like make sure it sounds good? He's like, it sounds good. I gotta like add some stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So he and I are the only ones that worked on the album for like production, like no one else, it's just us. So I feel like people kind of get surprised about that because they're like, oh, it sounds legit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, that's us. Like we put lots of time into it. I've been producing for about 5 years or since like college. So with the radio station, we had to produce talk. And I was like, and this probably is going into like back into that earlier topic of like, I was that close with like artists, interviewing them. Not only was I interviewing them, I was producing for them. I was producing radio shows. And that takes a lot of time and effort, but it's like kind of like podcasts too, right? Where you're on
Yeah.
audition or your dog, right? And you're like playing out. But then I was like, but something felt missing when I was editing talk. And then I realized like, oh, like I should be editing sounds. Like it was the Foley of the art form of radio that made me feel so good. And so I was like, oh, I love adding effects from Splice or like different libraries, right? Like free sounds and just like making something crazy. I would make mashups and that like really got me going and really happy. And so I was like, but like, what about my own sounds? So like recording instruments and on Logic, that's like what I like to use most for DAWs. So there's a big sound library I could use. And yeah, but then when you're the only one that listens to the art by the end of it, like it's very rare that's you're the only one because you'll start to go crazy. And so it's just like, it gets you, I guess, like riled up and like nervous because you're like, oh, like maybe I should have gotten another opinion. So I'm glad I had Brady's help there, and I happily promote him because this is what he does for a living too. Like he is a mixing mastering engineer, but he also helps produce and record people. Like he does the whole 9 yards with that. But I also like to be an independent woman. So I like to do it myself. So I was like, I'm really not gonna like ask for his help until I need it at the way end, until I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing anymore. So that's how much I produced it. I but like Brady made, he said for one of the songs, he was like, he really like, he's like, I produced it for like 30 hours. It was a lot. And I was like, that was the one he helped with the most. That was Will Shine. But for me, I edited that one for like 500 hours. Or like
Yeah.
I started that song in 2018. So, but I think it's the more time you put into it, also, the bigger, better quality it is. Because
Yeah.
you're fixing on that signal chain and that flow, and you're really getting really detailed, even for something that's short in structure, right? Like 3.5 minutes, like to like let the changes go, like from funk to like trippy, like neo, I don't even know what to call it. It's like bass low, like lo-fi-ish too. Like it just does a lot of different things. And for it to like do that, and for a whole EP, like a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of recording and re-recording. I probably had like 300 vocal takes and maybe that many guitar ones and piano. And oh wow, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there with that EP. But I'm so happy that people are listening to it and enjoying it and feeling some like feeling from it, because of how much I felt for making it, and of how much Brady felt from making it. And just like, it's cool to see like, oh, it's possible to kind of just do it yourself and with your partner, and not have to rely on labels the way that it used to be decades ago, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think all the time you spent and Brady spent as well was well worth it. I'm completely obsessed with the EP. I
Thank you.
hope everyone who's listening right now goes out and streams it everywhere. It was so great talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all of your music.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks so much for having me. It means so
Yeah,
much, and I'm
yeah.
really happy that you enjoyed my EP and that you're plugging it to everyone because, like, I really hope that all your listeners check it out because it is an experience. And yeah, and anyone who wants to follow me, like, my handles are for Instagram, Clubhouse, TikTok. It's at the at symbol, I'm like Marl.I.I. I know it's a pain to write, but I promise it's worth it. And then on Facebook, it's Marliii with 3 eyes. I know it's just a pain to write everywhere. SoundCloud's the same, YouTube, it's all that. And yeah, and I have some limited edition Awaken Eye merch that you can find on those pages.
Ooh.
So definitely something good to hit up before it sells out. And I'll be putting shows there soon now that the world's opening up. What? It's going to be cool. So yeah. And yay. So thank you for having me again, Steph. It means a lot.
Yes, of course. That was my sit-down interview with Marliii, and here is a snippet of her track Immortality from her EP Awaken Eye. Hope you guys enjoy.
Take me to your favorite dream. Sway me with your personality. Way to be, will you ever see? They don't have to wait for you and me. Soaring free, lovingly. Wouldn't you agree? It feels like immortality. 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 Smiling lately, vibing on the daily.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode. I will see you on social media. Until next time, when I have more great artists to share with you guys. So thank you, keep sharing, checking out social media, and I will see you next time on Discovered with Steph.